Good morning everyone, I hope you are well. It's now Friday, so the big day of the opening. So I'm a mixture of worried and tired and excited at the same time. I'm trying not to think too much about it. I will head out now and go for a quick breakfast somewhere and definitely some coffee. I will need that, and afterwards go directly into the British History Museum, which is not at all far away. I believe it's maybe a 10-minute walk from here, so this is really practical before coming back here and changing and freshening myself up for the exhibition. So yeah, let's get going.
I always wanted to see the Lewis chessmen with my own eyes. These beautiful objects are believed to be made in Norway around the 12th or 13th century and found some 600 years later in Scotland. They are masterly crafted from walrus tusk and some out of whale teeth. I took a while to admire the highly ornate thrones of the kings and queens and the characteristic accessories every figure held. The kings all had a sword across their knees, the queens a drinking horn, the knights all different shields. And while we might never know exactly where they came from, one thing is for certain: the Lewis chessmen are a unique survival and stunning pieces of art. As you can see, I mostly focused on objects of the same period and the same style. So here we have two decorative elements of a helmet. We have a boar on the top and a raven on the right. And especially the raven I found to be very interesting because so very transformed in the design. I found it really unusual and wanted to have a closer look, and also find it very creative the way that the usual form of a raven was transformed here. And we have a very similar raven here decorating a shield. I found it interesting how it was not just sitting on a branch in the usual posture, let's say, but like hovering, ready to leap. I also love the intricate details of the Sutton Hoo purse lid. The technical virtuosity of the craftsmanship of workshop is evident in the absolute precision of the decoration covering this item. During the complicated construction process, the garnet's glass inlays and filigree plaques had all to be fitted very precisely. And what I love most about this object is the design of the man standing between two beasts, which we have on the left as well as on the right side of the purse lid. And I would love to find a way to work this inspiration into some future lino illustrating a mythological subject maybe. This is another very interesting object. So it is a T-shaped head of a church staff. The walrus ivory relief of this Ulster crozier is exceptional both in depth of its carving and the degree to which the freestanding parts were undercut. But this is even not what stuns me most. It is the fusion between different cultural influences fused together in this imagery, because we have a religious scene with the figure of Christ in the middle of the crozier, but from the central point, two volutes curl outwards, covered in stylized foliage, and we also have fantastical animals and two griffin heads, as well as some very Celtic looking ornaments on the top. And this fusion between Christian and pagan imagery in an object of ecclesiastic representation, I find this to be extremely stunning. And the same observation goes for the Frank's casket that we have here. The fact that it preserved the earliest recognizable versions of famous legends from Germanic traditions, the longest complete runic texts, and the earliest examples of narrative art from Anglo-saxon England makes this object a unique window onto the early medieval world. And this at a particularly significant moment of transition, as the Anglo-Saxons renounced their older pagan religions and adopted Christianity. The scenes that decorate the sides and the lid are chosen from a curious mixture of sources. We have Germanic and Roman legends, Jewish and Roman history, and the New Testament. The inscriptions are equally puzzling, most written in the Anglo-saxon runic alphabet, the Futhorc, and in Old English, the language of the Anglo-Saxons. They perform ostentatious contortions, some running backwards, some upside down, others shifting into Latin and Roman lettering. This is why when we today are struggling with multicultural societies, it is interesting to look at these objects and recall ourselves that societies did seem to manage pretty well like 1,000 years ago. This one surely was a very interesting object as well, because it is of Russian origin and I've never seen anything like this. We have a fairly stylized hair here, and if you're familiar with my works, you know that hairs have a special place in my heart, and I even have a lino print of a traditional British folktale involving the sun, the moon and the hare. So I find it very, very inspirational for me, and I will surely give this design a think. Now, the three following objects I picked for kind of the same reasons. What all three objects have in common is that, in my eyes, they are a very different type of Celtic art than what we're used to seeing. We don't have those very geometrical knots and beasts intertwined. We're far away from this typical angular design, and what we have here is fairly more floral. We have forms that are very tapered, so we have fine lines that are thickening then and becoming some kind of twigs maybe, or stylized leaves, and I find this very unusual and very beautiful as well as inspiring. The next three objects are animalistic ornaments, and what I find interesting here and very beautiful as well is that we truly are in a transitional period between the medieval forms and the level of details that we are used to having in the Renaissance art. This is where it comes together really beautifully, and this is maybe what I should take inspiration from most for my future lino prints. And then it was time to leave the British History Museum and head back to the hotel to prepare for the great opening. I strolled through some very atmospheric streets of Georgian houses, a cute little park, and was ready to go. Now guess who had an issue with the battery for the micro that stopped working literally in time for me to film the exhibition? Yes, you're right, it was me again. First of all, I was incredibly impressed by the sheer number of people who actually turned up. This made for a fantastic atmosphere. Everyone was looking at the different artworks and chatting amongst themselves about them, giving feedback to the different artists. So honestly, I think that this moment of exchange was a very precious one for everyone involved. I love the diversity that the Holy Art Gallery created in terms of different styles, different sizes, different media and price ranges. I truly believe that whichever your taste, whichever your budget, you would find a piece that you would love. I think that this concept is really great because the diversity is really beneficial for both artists and clients. I loved talking to the potential clients and the different artists who were lovely and wonderfully creative. It was very nice talking about our different approaches, what we like in our art process, what motivates and inspires us. So I can only highly recommend for anyone who may be in this position to submit to an open call organized by the Holy Art Gallery. I do believe that this is a really great opportunity and a fantastic experience to see your art hung on a wall in a gallery. You should not rob yourself of this experience.
The next day I had to start my journey home, but not without visiting a little bit more of London first. I visited St. Paul's and then Leadenhall Market. Unfortunately, I was not aware that everything would be closed on a Saturday, so I just admired the beautiful architecture before heading out again. The last noteworthy thing that I did was walking over to St. Dunstan in the east. These are some really beautiful church ruins that have been transformed into a public garden, I believe. So I took a little time to relax before starting my journey home, admired the beautiful ruins and the last of the fantastic autumn light and warmth that we had that day. I hope you enjoyed traveling to London with me, and as always, I hope to see you in my next video very soon. Until then, have a lovely morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Cheers!